Hi class, how are you today? Well, given that information, I can determine that that's great! The learning target for today is to determine if two lines are parallel using alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, same side interior angles, same side exterior angles, and corresponding angles theorems. So we're going to use all those theorems. We learned about them in the last video, and now we're going to use those to determine if lines are parallel. The scale for today, you're a 3 if you can determine if two lines are parallel using alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, same side interior angles, same side exterior angles, and corresponding angles theorems. You're a 2 if you can find all the angle measures created by lines crossed by a transversal. That's using things like vertical angles and linear pairs to be able to find other angles. You're a 1 if you can identify special angle pairs, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, same side interior angles, same side exterior angles, and corresponding angles theorems. And you're a 0 if you cannot identify special angle pairs, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, same side interior angles, same side exterior angles, and corresponding angles theorems. Let's get started.
Now I'm going to give you some theorems, and we've talked a little bit about some of these, but now we're going to get into all of them. So we've got the special angle pairs, corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, same side interior angles, and same side exterior angles. Now we've talked a bit about these theorems here, and I want to get into using these symbols a lot. So what this says is if the lines are parallel, that's what this symbol means, that the lines are parallel. If the lines are parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. And you may have seen this symbol before. It means congruent. It's an equal sign with a tilde over it. So if the lines are parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. And we've got them for all of these, and they're all very similar. If lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent. If lines are parallel, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. If lines are parallel, then same side interior angles are supplementary. And if lines are parallel, then same side exterior angles are supplementary. Then we have the converses. And these are still theorems, but they're the converse of these theorems, which means that we're switching what's with the if and what's with the then. So it's kind of the backwards version. This one says if corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So we're going backwards here, but it still works. We're going to be using these a lot in this lesson and the next lesson. And we're going to focus on if we have corresponding angles and they're congruent, then the lines are parallel. So if alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. If alternate exterior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. If same side interior angles are supplementary, then the lines are parallel. And if same side exterior angles are supplementary, then the lines are parallel. Once again, remember supplementary means they add to 180 degrees.
Now for an example. Determine which lines, if any, are parallel and state why. So we've got 113 here and 67 here. So what we want to do with those is look to see if there's any sort of special angle pair between these two. So, well, between these lines here, neither of them are they're not both interior, just 67 is, and 113 is an exterior. That would only leave corresponding angles, but they're not in the same spot. 67's in the upper left-hand corner, 113's in the upper right-hand corner. So they're not a special angle pair. So we need to find out other angles that could make a special angle pair. So, bunch of different things you could do, but what I'll do for this example is 67 degrees. Below that is another angle. So, with this straight line, we can make a linear pair. So if this is 67, this angle has to be 180 minus that. So we'll do 180 minus 67, and we get 113. So this is 113 degrees. Now we can look, is there a special angle pair here? Well, between these two 113s, they're both on the exterior of these two lines. They're both outside the lines, and they're on alternate sides of this transversal, E. One's on the right, one's on the left. So these two angle pairs here are alternate exterior angles. So we can say if alternate exterior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So then the lines are parallel. So that means that the lines that are parallel is F and G. F is parallel to G. And this is what I'm looking for an answer. Which lines are parallel, and then the reason why. Alright, now for another example. Determine which lines, if any, are parallel and state why. So we have a little bit more going on in this example. So again, first thing we want to do is see, are there any special angle pairs? And we have to be careful because we have two transversals, AC and EC. So just a note, 55 isn't anything that can be a special angle pair because it's not touching any of these horizontal lines here. These are the lines we want to see if they're parallel, and 55 is not touching any. We may use this angle, but not as a special angle pair. So there's others we need to deal with. So there's a few different things we can do. So let's look for special angle pairs. And we don't have to go with the lines that are near each other. We can look at any of these lines here. If we look at transversal AC, there are two angles that are on that are specifically on these horizontal lines here. These are the ones we want to see if they're parallel. If we look at this one, 60 degrees, and this one, 55 degrees, these are on alternate sides of the transversal. One's on the left, one's on the right. And with CF and AE, they're both in between them. So specifically CF, because that one's touching 55, and AE, because that one's touching 60, they're in between, so these are alternate interior angles. However, these are not congruent. Alternate interior angles need to be congruent. So right away, CF is not parallel to AE. Remember, we named these with lines over them. So CF and AE are not parallel because their alternate interior angles are not congruent. Another thing to notice is, let's look at transversal CE. So with that, we've got an angle here, 65 degrees, and then one thing you may not have noticed right away, but another angle is this angle here. So this angle here combines both of these. So we've got 55 degrees and 55 degrees. 55 plus 55, that gives us 110, and that's 65. These are on the same side of the transversal. They're both on the left side, and they're both in between these lines here. CF and BD They're both in between, so these would be same side interior angles. 55 and 55 makes 110, and this is 65, so they should be supplementary. So 110 plus 65 will give us 175. It's not 180, so we can also say that CF is not parallel to BD. Now, the last thing we need to look for is there are 3 lines here, so CF's not parallel to any of these, but is BD parallel to AE? That's what we want to now find out. That's our last combination left. The only angles on those lines are the 65 here and the 60 here. Those are not on the same transversal, so we can't do anything with them. So next, let's try to find out this angle right here. We've got a triangle, and we know 2 angles of the triangle, so let's find the third. So if this is 65 and this is 55, let's add them up, and that will give us 120. And then so 180 minus 120 will give us 60. So this angle right here is 60 degrees. So this angle and this angle, one's on the outside of BD and AE, one's on the inside, one's in between BD and AE. So it's not an interior or an exterior. The only one is left is corresponding. So let's see if they are. Upper right-hand corner of the picture is 60. Upper right-hand corner of the picture is this 60. So upper right-hand corner of both pictures gives us 60 degrees. So these are corresponding angles. And the corresponding angles are congruent. So we can now say, if corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So since you know that corresponding angles are congruent, you can say those 2 lines, BD and AE, are parallel. So line BD is parallel to line AE. So that gives you the showing which lines are parallel and the state why, the reasoning behind it.
Alright, now time for the sponge activity. So I have a bunch of lines here, and I want you to state which lines are parallel, if any, and state why. So we've got line AB, line AC, line EF, line AF, and line BE. And I want you to state which of 2 pairs are parallel, as many as you can find that are parallel, and give your reason why. That's it for the lesson. Once again, please make sure to take notes on the entire lesson. Go back to the scale, remember to circle it where you think you are on the scale, 0, 1, 2, or 3. Please make sure to take a picture of your notes, submit them to Google Classroom. You need to attempt the sponge, get credit, full credit on the homework, and have a good night.